Hello and welcome to our Teams and OneNote webinar. Just wanted to start with a little bit about us. So my name's Claire Jackson. I teach public services mainly here. As you can see, I've taught a variety of different subjects at Wilberforce College and also some subjects at HE. My teaching covers GCSE, BTEC and A-levels.
Okay, and I'm Kelly. So as you can see there, I've been teaching for 10 years. The past 8 have been at Wilberforce College. So I'm the cross-college English coordinator, but also the initial teacher development lead as well. I do a lot of EdTech stuff in my lessons, and I'm currently studying for a Masters in Education, looking at digital technologies and education leadership as well.
So a big welcome to those people that joined us last time. We've updated our board here. If we've got any new members with us today and you're not listed, just drop in to the Q&A section and let us know where you're from and we can add you on for next time. There will be a section at the end for you to ask questions, but we encourage you to put these throughout the presentation, just in the Q&A section, and we'll get back to those at the end. You can see that this is a list of some of the events that we've got coming up. You'll be able to watch back the ones that have already gone. You can see that we've got quite a few going all the way through up to number 7.
Yeah, we've got one more this week, which is tomorrow with Nicola and Lewis, which is presenting with Sway, and then obviously the ones after that are in next week and the week after.
The aim of today's session is to guide you through the process of setting up your own OneNote, show you some examples of how it can be used, and also to demo the key features. Remember, if you've got any questions, just type them in the Q&A and we'll come back to those at the end.
So why do I use OneNote then? So I did some training when we went into the first lockdown and everything went remote, because I'm self-admittedly a bit of a technophobe. I'm not really that great with technology, and so I wanted to use the time I had to try and really upskill. So I was doing some training and OneNote was one that's kind of stood out to me as something that I wanted to try. When we came back in September, and obviously some of the social distancing rules were still in place. For example, at our college, we didn't have the open access computer rooms anymore. I just kind of thought, right, this might be a really good piece of software that might help me with some of the problems that I'm facing. You know, I can't just go and have a look at the students' work anymore. I can't go and stand next to them. And also the biggest challenge for them is they've lost that computer room. So when they're in their free time or study periods where they should be writing up coursework for vocational subjects or obviously for doing A-levels revising, you know, the problem is that they've not got access to the PCs. So it needed to be something that was going to work on a mobile device. And you'll see as we go through, there's a lot of functions that make it accessible to all students. So there's lots of different uses of OneNote. These are just some of the ways that I use it. And what I'm going to do is talk you through each of these. So to begin with, the students can use it as a normal notebook like they would a pen and paper. You can see that this is what it looks like when you're actually in OneNote. This is one that I've set up for the purpose of this training. You can see that they can write the notes directly into this, but there's lots of tags that they can also add just using this tag tab up here. So they can add any of these on, and you can see that I've used a list of them here. So this might be useful so that they can check things off when they've done it, you know, labeling things in different ways.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys.
So they know whether it's important or not, or less important, if it's a question. So it might be a really good way of organising the notes at the end of a session, thinking about the how they make notes and making those notes more effective. The source symbol is particularly useful as well, so they know where they found something. So one way that I started using this in terms of assessment and feedback was this would be an example of the student's work, and then what I would do is write the feedback next to it. So usually this kind of comes up in like a box. You can't see it here, but there would be like a little box around it when the student's writing it. So you can click anywhere at the edge of their work and add comment in. The problem that I found with this is that this wouldn't then stay with the work if they started editing it. So if I'd put that comment there and then they started extending the work above this paragraph, so if they went into a paragraph above and added another paragraph, it would push the Regional Assembly's paragraph down, and then it would no longer be in line with my comment anymore. So this, you can do it this way, but that's the kind of problem with it. So what I've started doing now is actually put it into the work instead. You can see here that the student has kept their own method of knowing whether they've done what I've asked them to do by putting done next to it. This is what I moved to. You can see that I've still put some things down the side, and I've actually highlighted here where that goes with. So you can use different colours to highlight it if you wanted to have them for different things. So you could have a colour for spelling and grammar if you wanted to, or a colour for your feedback, however it suits you really. And that way, because it's actually in the student work, it doesn't matter how much they edit it, that's going to stay in the same place. So for me, this was a much better way of doing it. And then the students can just delete it when it's done, or you can delete it when you want to check it. One of my favourite functions is the rainbow pen. I'll show you that in the live demo later. And this is just another example of a task that I gave the students. This was actually a homework task. I just copied this from a Word document that I already had. And again, like I say, you've got the function to draw on the screen, so you can tick it and you can add little emojis or whatever else you want. With this one, this was just feedback at the end of the document. So, you know, kind of having it on the edge there is fine when it's at the bottom, because it doesn't matter if they add to it, because it was right underneath or at the side. It's just an overall comment, so it doesn't match with any, you know, particular paragraph. So it worked okay still for that. So in terms of class activities, preparation work and homework, these are some examples of the things that I've done. So these were homework tasks or things that I needed them to do before the lesson. So you can see here I've imported or just put in a table. And these were all copied from documents that I already had, so it's not creating any more work. You can create things straight in there. You can see I added these little tags just to kind of make it stand out a little bit more, be a bit better visually. Then I've got some web links here, which I asked them to look at in preparation for the lesson that we were doing on that topic. But I think it's quite nice to be able to have a different variety of things that you can import in. I found that's particularly useful. Some other activities. So again, this was just one that I had in a Word document, and this one I think I wrote this directly into Teams because this was a new activity that I'd created. You can put things in as a link like that, or you can also add an actual hyperlink. So I could have made, I don't know, your UK Parliament, the title, I could have made that a hyperlink so that they could have clicked on it and followed it. I'll show you how to do that in the live demo. So this is an example of their collaborative work. You can have, or you will have, a collaborative space as an automatic function when you set up a class notebook. I've just kind of guessed how you should use it really, because I didn't really know. So I just thought, right, what do I think it'll be useful for? So I was just kind of thinking the problems with COVID, right, what is the issue? Well, they can't actually sit in a group and do a group task anymore. And I do a lot of teaching that way. So maybe this could be used as an alternative. So I set up some groups, and then I can send tasks to each group. So if I had a worksheet, I could send it directly to the group and they could have a look at that and then they could edit it. This one, they just did it on a blank page. They were considering the positives and negatives of Parliament. And what you can see I particularly like about it is you can see who the author is. So you can see who's written what. So they've done this in real time. So they've done it on the mobile devices. They were sat in the same classroom, but it just meant that they didn't have to be facing each other and they didn't have to be close enough to each other to be able to write on the same piece of paper. So it was COVID friendly. So this allows me to monitor their notebooks, because you will get to see every student's notebook. They'll only see their own, but you can see all of theirs. So it's really good for monitoring what they've actually done. They can say to you, if it was a coursework workshop, for example, if you'd given them a task in there that you wanted them to do, you can have a look at it in real time. So the student might say, well, can you just read this paragraph for me? You can go in, have a look at it and give them some instant feedback. Equally, what I liked about it is that it helps me to see if they're on track. So if I'm in a room where it's a coursework workshop and I want to make sure that they're all on task, normally I'd be walking around the room and checking what they're doing, you know, but obviously I can't do that. So this allows me to do that from my own computer, so I can sit at the front, and if I suspect a student isn't working effectively, I can look at their OneNote and then, you know, maybe go back in a couple of minutes, and if there's been no changes to it, I know they're not doing anything. And it, like I say, you can see it live, so I can see how long it's taking them to type a sentence. You know, if they're taking huge pauses in between and then they're sat talking, I can see that. So it's particularly useful, especially if you can't see what's on their screen and you think they might be looking at something other than their OneNote. You can actually spot that, and it allows you to do it, you know, applying social distancing rules. In terms of remote learning, sort of similar reasons really then. It's helping me to monitor their progress. It's great for setting work because I can just import something in and send it to them all, and it goes directly into their OneNote, so I don't have to be sending it on Teams or email or anything else. I can just do it all in the app, which is great. I can tell them, you know, what I want them to do, and I can send any resource. And it also means that they can work collaboratively. So even if they are obviously working remotely and they're not on the site, they can still go in and do great work in the same way that I showed you earlier. In terms of resources, you get a teacher section that the students won't be able to see. So I generally create a lot of resources in there first. So if I wanted to send something to the students, I would create it in the teacher section and then share that page with them once I've finished doing it. That way you can import anything from existing documents, so from PowerPoints or from Word documents or whatever, and then send it to them. They also have what they call a resource library, and these are just some examples of the different ways that you can use that. So it's called a content library. That's really where you would put any PowerPoints or anything else that maybe you've used in class or you want them to be able to see. So these are kind of two different ways I'd started off trialing really in September. So this one, I started inputting the resources after every single lesson, which I think was really great for those that missed a lesson. They could just go to the date and they knew that that's what they needed to catch up on. Obviously it wouldn't include all the class discussions and things like that, but at least it would include any resources you've used in the session. For this unit, the PowerPoint included all of the tasks that I wanted them to do. So it was a PowerPoint that spanned multiple lessons. So that wasn't really going to work. So I thought I'd try something different. So I just had one individual page on their OneNote and just copied the links to all of the things that I'd use. So these, you would just click on it and it would then take you to open up the PowerPoint, or the same with the Word document. And then these are all hyperlinks to news articles that were relevant for that assignment. So this shows you kind of how it would look. You can see obviously I've blanked out their names. So these are the folders that I've chosen to use, but you can change these if you want to. So, you know, you kind of adapt it and make it suitable for whatever you're going to use it for. So this is just an example here of in the contents library. I've set up a folder called resources, and then these are the resources that I've put within that folder. This is the page. And this is what's on the page, so it just shows you what it would look like. To set up your own OneNote, first of all, you need to open up the OneNote app, and you're looking for OneNote for Windows 10. Once you're in there, you should get this page come up, or I should say it might ask you to log in. It depends on your laptop might remember that. Once you're in, then you need to click on the class notebook at the top, and then into Create Class Notebook, this little tab here. So this will then automatically open up in your browser, and you just need to decide what the name of your class notebook is going to be. It could be the group code or whatever else you want to put in, and then just click Next. Then it gives you an overview. So this is just showing you what spaces will actually be in the notebook, and it also tells you the permissions. So this is really more for your own information. Then just click Next. What I really like about this is you can give another teacher permission to access this notebook. So this might be really good for maybe cover teachers, or if you share a class with somebody, for example, this might be particularly useful. You obviously don't have to use this function. This is an optional function, and then just click next. Then you need to add your students in or group. So you would just type in their group code there, or just start typing their individual email addresses, and it will find them. Then click next. This is when you decide what you want your notebook to actually look like. So these will be the individual sections that the students see. So these are completely customizable. You can rename any of them, you can delete them, and you can add them. So just make it your own of what you think will be useful for you. Then click next. And it gives you a preview. So it's going to show you what it's going to look like for you and what it's going to look like for the student. So you can just, okay, and then it tells you that it's setting it up. Okay, so sometimes that takes a couple of minutes. Then you'll get this page once it's done. If you're not working on the OneNote for Windows 10 app, then you do need to click this bit here to add the class notebook in, because it just gives you some extra functions. If you're already doing it from OneNote from Windows 10, you can just ignore that, okay, because it does it automatically. So then you can just click to open it to get started. You can either open it online or you can open it directly in the OneNote app.
Okay, so this is to go through how you can add stuff into OneNote, things like resources. Everything goes in the contents library if you want to be able to share that with the students, but without them being able to edit it. They can still download it, so they could edit it that way, but they won't be able to actually edit it in the OneNote. So in there, every section of this OneNote, you always get an introductory page that just explains what it is. You can delete that if you want to. So you can add a new section in. You can change the section colour, okay, so if you want different colours for different topics, and you can rename a section this way as well. So if we just call this government as a topic, for example, and then we can give this one a title as well. So we could say resources for assignment 1. And then the students will know that all the stuff that they need is going to be in this one page. You could split it up. So if you wanted to do multiple pages, if there's different parts of the assignment, you can have as many pages as you want. So you would go into class notebook, not class notebook, sorry, into insert, then into file, and then you'll get to pick where you want to select it from. So I want here. Okay, so let's imagine that I was putting that PowerPoint in. Then you get a choice, so you can do that one. I generally just do it as an attachment usually, and then it's just like that, and they can just double click on that and it'll open. If they're doing it on a mobile device, then it'll open up in the PowerPoint app or the Word app if you've used a Word document. So that's one way of putting it in there. You might want to add it so that the whole document appears on the screen. So you would do the same thing again. So if I just put in, so let's say this tick list, for example, but this time, oh, sometimes it does that if I still got it open. No. If it does that and comes up, I don't know why, sometimes it says you have to check the link. Usually if you open up the document and then just close it down immediately and go back to it, it usually fixes it. Or sometimes you can just try it again and it'll work. I don't know why it does it. So you can do insert as printout. If you do insert as printout, it automatically converts it into a PDF as well. So it keeps the Word document, it automatically converts it into a PDF, and then it shows you the full document there. So that's quite useful, doing it all for you. It depends how you want it to look, if you just want like a list of the little icons or if you want the whole document to appear. Other ways that you can do it then is you can actually add, copy and paste the information across from an existing document. So if I go into, this one was just a test. If I wanted to import this, so let's imagine this was already filled in with a load of content or a task, I can just copy it and then go into here and just paste it. and it'll automatically put that in. If I did, let's look at this one, same thing again. Just to kind of show you how different things can look different. Okay, so you can see that one's much bigger, and you can move them around and resize them as well by clicking on these. So if you wanted like multiple things on the same page, you can. So that's just a couple of different ways that you can import things into OneNote. Another really good function in Class Notebook is this one here, where you can add and remove students. So if you get a student that joins late or whatever and they need access to it, you can do that. And you can also choose to add staff in as well, which I think I went through in the PowerPoint. So that's quite useful. Okay, so to go through how you would actually send stuff into the students' notebooks then, you've gone through the contents library, that's where you're going to save like all of the resources they're going to use, but you might want to send them things directly to their actual notebooks. So I tend to create everything like that in the teacher only section first, so you can obviously have as many sections within that as you want. The students can't see anything in there, so if it was in there and you hadn't quite finished it or wanted to edit it, then the students can already see it, whereas if it's in here, they can't. So I tend to create it in here first. In fact, you can see this was the test I did actually for the PowerPoint. So let's imagine that we wanted to send this page to the students directly to their work booklets. All we need to do is go into Class Notebook, which actually I already had up, and then into Distribute Page, again. And then you get to select where you want to send it to. So these are based on whatever you chose when you set up your notebook. So if I want to send that into Class Notes, and then just click Distribute, that will then automatically send and tell me when it's done. Okay, so you can see that was a test I did a minute ago, and it did it, super quick. You can also copy things or move them. So if you did it there, but then you wanted to move it into a different section, the same thing applies. So you click on Move or Copy, and again, you would select where you want it to be. So if it was moving it from one section, so if I wanted to move it from resources into there, then I'd just click on that one and move. Or if I wanted to copy it to there, I'd just click Copy. This will also allow you to send it across multiple notebooks as well. So you can see if I wanted to send it to a different group, I could do that by doing the same thing, either move or copy. So it's actually really good if you've got multiple groups doing the same thing, because you can just send it to them all. There are a couple of differences in OneNote as well, depending on whether you're using it in the app or the online version. So this is the app version. So you can see that this doesn't have as many of these tags. I created this the first time in the online version. So you can see some of them there is not in this one. So that is one difference. And in this one as well, you have more choice when it comes to the pens. So one of the ones that you'd seen on the PowerPoint I did was this one. So I really like the multicolored one, and the Galaxy one is quite cool. And this one, you may not be a lover of coloured pens, I really am. So, this is a sway to be using the app version. It might not be important for you, but it is a difference. If we go to the app version, let me show you that whilst I'm recording. I don't know if it will. Hopefully it's going to take you to this one. So you can see that when we're in here, this has loads more of the tags. So if that's something that you think your students are going to use more, then they might want to use it more in the online version. Most of the stuff is the same. There's just a few very small differences. Like in this one as well, you've got the spelling and grammar tab as an actual tab at the top. It will highlight spelling mistakes in both. If I go back to this one, so you can see there. Oh, sorry, I'm still on. You just click on that to get off the pen. So you can see that it's got a spelling error. So it will do the proofing, but it's just not as an individual tab at the top. So it's not that it doesn't do it at all. So I'll just choose to ignore. If I just rub out my little bit, So that's, and then every time you've used one of these pens, you just need to click on that to go back to the normal cursor. So keep going to the wrong one. So yeah, that's different, just how it appears. But as I say, it will correct spelling and grammar in both. I think that's some of the main differences. I think in this one as well, you still get the page colours, but you don't get the lines. So in the app one, you can actually add lines if you want to, or even grids. So that might be good maybe for maths, but you don't have that function in this one, or not that I've found, because in the app it is just next to it. So I'm assuming it doesn't. So yeah, those are just a couple of the differences that I've identified already. But other than that, I'd say that there isn't a huge amount of difference between the app and the online version. So it's just whichever you prefer. I just like the layout a little bit more of the app one, so I tend to use that. So just wanted to go through some of the features of OneNote that I think make it really inclusive and really beneficial for the students. So when they're in this general tab here, just in the home, there's the dictate button. So that's really good for those students that might find it more difficult to write it, particularly if they're at home, finding it difficult to concentrate, or if they're working on mobile devices, which obviously have a small screen. Some students really find that quite handy. If you go into the view section, they can change their page colours. Again, some students will prefer that. You can add lines in as well, which is quite useful for them. And a really good one is the immersive reader. So they can just highlight it. Okay, and use this immersive reader. So you can just play it like that.
Students can write notes. There are also a variety of tags they can use.
Within here, you can change the speed at which it reads and stuff as well, I believe. So again, that's really useful. There is a translate function. I've never used the translate function, but I'm assuming it'll work in the same way. Just highlight it and do that selection. And choose the language. Let's go Danish, why not? Okay, yeah, translated it straight away. So again, another really quick function. And I think that just shows I've never used this translate, but this is how easy OneNote is to use. Even if you've not used a particular tab on it, I've not been using it that long, only literally since September. So there is probably tons of stuff it does that even I don't know at the moment. That's why this is just the basics. But it is quite intuitive. Just give it a go is what I do. And I just play with it and see what happens. You know, you can't really break anything, you know, especially if you're copying stuff from things that you've already got stored somewhere else. You know, if you did delete it by accident, you've still got that document somewhere else. It's not the end of the world. So I think, you know, just give it a play and, you know, click on things and see what happens.
Okay, guys, so it's back to me now, and I'm going to do the teams.
Okay, so this
just bear with us 1 second.
just to go through how you can add.
There we go. So we're doing teams. So we'll cover how I kind of use teams and how I see using teams. So teams is a communication tool, staff development tool, and as a learning tool. Within this presentation, I've also got examples of each of those things and how they can be used in different ways as well. Just a reminder as well to post any questions that you have got to us. And we have got a question and answer session at the end, so we will answer those as they come in as well. Okay, so communication tool then. So with Teams, you can send direct messages to individuals. So that's both staff and students that you can do that. Post important notices to class or group teams. Tag people in important messages, or signpost them to post some messages that they may have missed or they may be looking for and can't find. And then you can hold calls, meetings and video calls with a range of people. And again, that includes staff and students. Okay, so we have some examples. So if we look at this first one, this was a chat that a student who was isolating sent me. Just asking basically what he needed to do, and then he quite likes handwriting his work, so he just uploaded a picture of what he had done. As you can see, he found it as the hardest question he's ever done in English, which is nice because it's quite challenging. But I can just, that's a really quick way of checking that he's actually doing the work. engaging with the work. It was a practice exam that they were doing, so there was no kind of reason to do a live call with them, but we still did it, which was really good. This one is where I've tagged my GCSE group, so you can create an announcement on Teams and then tag a group so that each person in that group gets an announcement and notification about a post that's been made. If you wanted to, because sometimes they can bypass that, you can kind of at individual students as well. As you see on the next one, so on this third one, I've mentioned the specific teachers that it involves. So all of these people are teachers, and they are my GCSE and functional skills teaching team. So they needed to read this. That will give them a notification saying that I've specifically tagged them in a post. And it just signposted them to a document that they needed to use for creating student comments. And then the last one is an example of a call that I've started for one of my groups. And you can schedule a meeting, so you can meet straight away, or you can schedule one in a calendar, and that's the same with live events as well. Okay. So as a staff development tool then, so with Teams, you can run whole staff training sessions, set up specific channels for training and development, quickly share, tag and save important documents and resources, and post links to training videos and CPD opportunities, okay? As a member of quite a big and diverse faculty, we've found that using Teams is a really good way of kind of keeping up with everything that's going on and doing staff development activities, okay? So again, we've got a session there that was run, so that was all staff training. So we've got a channel for all staff training, and that was a meeting that was set up by Lois and Adam, who are both doing sessions later on in the Trailblazer groupings. We've got channels there, so examples of our tech team. So we've got different channels set up there. As you can see, we have got a social channel. Now that during lockdown in particular was really a really good channel, just because we were missing that social interaction of seeing everyone at work. So including a social channel within your staff teams really, really helps. We found it really good. We used to come on in the morning, say morning to everyone, kind of share some light-hearted jokes, funny memes, things like that. So having that social channel just allows for that social interaction that could be missing, especially at this moment in time. Okay. Sharing some videos and things. So again, it was made on an announcement in the all staff training channel, and it just shared some video links, some PowerPoints. Again, we've got quite a few part-time staff, so they were able to access all of the training that the staff that were in work managed to, and you can also look back on them and things like that as well, which is really good. And then we've got here, we've got shared documents, again by Jonathan, again in the all staff training channel, just links to different CPD opportunities. And you could share those with your faculty teams, you can share them with your all staff teams and things like that. It's just a really good way of kind of signposting people to things, keeping kind of a record of things and getting people involved with collaborating as well. Okay, and then as a learning tool, we found that this has really taken off at Wilberforce College. So with Teams, you can post resources for lessons, check student understanding, direct the students to specific tasks, and then develop peer assessment, okay? Now, the bottom one for me is a really big thing in the current climate, in that we've lost the ability to be able to get them to peer assess each other's work within lessons. Using Teams, I'll go through how we can still get that done and still make it really meaningful, as we would if they were doing it kind of physically. Okay, so we have various folders set up in my language and literature class there. So I've separated into the different things that they would kind of study, and put any PowerPoints on there that kind of fit with the lesson but not into one of their core modules. So the digital day that we had, I put the PowerPoints on there as well. as you can see here, so I'm getting student feedback. So I've directed students to do something. So this was an announcement that I did in one of my channels. So you can see at the top, this is the team that it's in. And then this bit here is the channel that I've posted it in. So we're doing Dracula at the minute. So they know that all their questions that I do, any kind of live lessons that I do for Dracula are going to be in this channel. It just helps them organize themselves and find things quite easily. So I tagged the team, so they all got a notification. I put the date on just to kind of remind them at which point of the course this came. I've put a title for it, so we're focusing on the character of Lucy, and we're focusing on these pages of the book. So, and then the tasks. So looking at the pages above, write down one way that Stoker presents Lucy as being weak. Okay, and then I've detailed what I expect from them in their post. So they need to include the way she is weak, quotation to support this, and analysis of how your quotation illustrates your point. So we're getting them to practice the exam skills they need, but they're using Teams. Now this particular session was done in a way that was live. So they were in the classrooms doing this, but it was just a quick way for me to check their understanding. And I was commenting as they were posting, I was commenting on kind of things they might need to tweak and things like that. And they've really built their confidence in being able to put a full point on there, as you can see from one of my students there. Okay, so this first one on the left-hand side, I directed students to answer particular questions. So it was a quiz on chapters 12 to 15, as I put in the title. Again, it was for this team in this channel. So I think consistency when using Teams works really, really well. So these were the questions. Can you reply to this person, add your response to the following given questions below? So there was 1 to 7, and I just tagged them in a question, and then underneath they just put their responses in there. And again, we could just kind of answer and things like that. This question is the way that I use peer assessment, and I'm developing this a lot more now within my lessons. So again, it's the team and it's the channel. We've looked at what the focus is, so it's focused on blood transfusion. The date is in there as well, so again, they can reference that in their notes. I've tagged the team again, so they'll all get a notification. And again, really kind of consistent in how I approach this. I would like you to choose one of the points studied in the lesson and write up one of your points. You need to include which of the 4 points you'll be discussing, a quotation to illustrate your point, a literary and linguistic analysis of your quotation and point. So we're kind of developing what they need to do for the exam there. Then I gave them an extra task, okay? So then you need to comment on the post of someone else stating what is good about their point, which assessment objective they need to develop if their point was part of a written exam response, okay? So here we've got some of the points, and then they mentioned people that they were commenting on, and they've put a positive, and then they've put which particular part. So there's AO1, AO2, AO3, and they've put which one. So develop use of terminology is AO1. The students know that because I went through it with them just to double check that they were aware of which assessment objective linked to which. And then they all did it. They were really good at it. This class in particular are really good. I've had these are my year 1 class, so I've had them from the start, and we've kind of just done things through Teams, and they're used to it now. They're used to, you know, when they give feedback, rather than having that awkward silence of can anyone give us any responses, and there's just been a kind of tumbleweed moment. If I get them all to respond to a post on Teams, they see their phones as a useful thing as part of the lesson rather than a distraction from the lesson. And they're much more willing to give examples and responses if they can type it rather than speaking. And they still get feedback from me. So I will say, you know, really good, but we need to develop this, or you just need to do it in this way. And I will do that with the feedback as well. So, for example, one of my students said, include some context. And I was like, right, okay, that's not kind of what we wanted you to do. We need you to give kind of a positive as well. So then she added a little bit more down here, and he got that feedback that was required. Okay, so that is the end of our presentation, and we're just going to go to questions.
I'm just responding to some now. I don't know if you want to have a look at some while I respond to this one.
So we've got one that says, what levels would you use Teams or OneNote for? Let me just put us, I'll put us back on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm still kind of in the camera. Just about.
There we go. I've put us back on screen now. So what levels would you use Teams or OneNote for? Personally, I would use it for any level. I've used it for functional skills level 1, level 2, GCSE resit, first year A level and second year A level. So I would definitely use it for any level, really. That's Teams and OneNote for me. As long as you're really clear about what you want it to be used for, how you want them to use it, how it's going to be useful to them, and just make it really clear and set your expectations. I think for any level and any subject, I would argue.
I think so.
It's a really good, they're both really good tools to use.
I think the advantage for me of both of them, whichever you decide to use, or possibly you might use both, is that everything's in one place. And I think that's what my students have really liked, specifically with OneNote. As I say, I'd not used it until this year, but it's all in one place and it's in their notebook, and they feel like they've got ownership of it. Yeah,
and it is like a paper notebook. Yeah, like they can make all their notes in it. Like when I use OneNote as well, I can sometimes get them to do class notes in there and make notes on the text and things like that. So it is their notebook, and they can't lose it. So, you know, they can't lose
that was the other thing we would always have. There'd always be one student that said the computer crashed,
I've lost it,
you know, I've lost it, I've not saved it properly. And the thing I love about Teams or OneNote is it's all, every single keystroke is automatically saved. So there is none of this having to actually save it. And I like as well that I can view it. So the way I can view their work on OneNote, I think is a real advantage of that.
And it's live as well.
And it's live.
Really good.
So yeah, I can be sat there in a computer room, and they can be over the other side of the classroom. I could be looking at their OneNote and giving them feedback instantly. And they do really like
they
that.
They respond really well to it. But I would definitely say, in terms of levels,
I think all levels. I've just responded to a comment. I don't know if you want to add to this because it's more your subject area. This was a comment from Diane about whether students could access things properly when they're working on their phone screens when they're in lessons. And she was thinking specifically about text annotation. I said that if we were putting it in OneNote, it would then open in the PowerPoint or the Word app if you were doing it on your mobile device. So I've not had any problems, but I don't know if you can think about it from a...
In terms of a text annotation, I use a lot of Whiteboard, which is another Microsoft app, and I would put the text in there, annotate that live. So I've got a touchscreen device, I annotate that live, and then I could post that annotated text into their team so they can then access it, and they have no problems doing that. So we do it live. They have it sometimes alongside them, so if we're adding to the text, they can see it live, or they can just watch the board because I have it projected on the board as well. So Microsoft Whiteboard is probably something I will touch on in my next session in December. I will look at how to integrate Whiteboard with Teams and how that is really, really useful and works really well. So yeah, in terms of annotations, they can access everything really quite easily within Teams. A lot of the time when they're writing responses, I allow them to have their notes on Teams, and it saves them kind of flicking between trying to find everything and things like that. It's really easily accessible. If we're doing a question on Dracula, they open the Dracula channel and everything that we've done is on there, so they can either look at examples that they've already posted and written and seeing how they've done that. They can look at what other people have posted to look at various ideas, and it's a kind of collaborative way of them doing it.
It makes it easier to find as well, doesn't it? Because I think if you think about the old system of using like something like emails, you're just getting thousands of emails, and the students just get fed up of emails, don't they? Let's face it, a lot of the time they just ignore it, you know, because they get that many. Whereas if they know exactly where they're going to be able to find it, so it might be that you've recorded a session, you know, and they can't remember exactly when it is, but they know it's on Dracula, so they can just go straight to that particular page and they're going to find it. And I think that is a real advantage.
Works really well.
Yeah.
And it helps them be organised as well.
Yeah, definitely.
We've just got another question. What kind of device does Teams or OneNote work better on?
Any,
I would say. Yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
say there's any particular that.
Obviously, if you have like a tablet or something, the screen is bigger, so some students
Yeah.
may have a preference for that. But I have marked work on my phone
Yeah.
at home on OneNote. In fact, I think some of the examples I showed you earlier were ones that I marked on my phone.
Yeah, I think the good thing about it is it lends itself to individual preference. So if people prefer using OneNote and Teams on their phones, they can. If they want to use it on a tablet, they can. If they want to use it on a laptop, they can. If they want to use it on a desktop, they can.
Yeah.
It's quite flexible. So in terms of that, I wouldn't say it works better on any one device.
No, I think it works
I
the
think
same.
I think it's more on the individual and how they use it.
Yeah.
For that one. Have you got any more?
I think there was a question, what are the main advantages of OneNote and Teams?
I just love it. I could tell you all the advantages.
I would say with OneNote, I really like how inclusive it is. So a lot of the stuff I was showing you earlier about, being able to change the page colours and, some things like that are not important for some students, but some students just really like it. And if it engages them, I think that's great. Some students need it in case it might help them to read things better. I think that the fact that you can have it read out to you is really good. And I just think it's really easy for the students to access. I have a lot of students that are not necessarily as good as you would think they would be with technology. I think there is this assumption that because they're young, they're going to be able to use all technology. And actually, in my experience, that's really not the case.
Yeah, we've had to do a lot of training, I think. But I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's getting them kind of thinking about how to do things differently, and
yeah,
they're kind of learning alongside us, which is
but
really
I think
good.
those two in particular are the easier ones to use. Teams, for me, if they can use Facebook, they can use Teams.
Yeah, for me,
it's very intuitive, isn't it?
For me, the advantage about Teams is that it's accessible. Like the accessibility of it, it's organised, it's accessible. The students enjoy it because they can contact their teacher directly. A lot of them don't like using email. Email's quite dated for them. Whereas an instant message is something that they are used to and they're used to using and enjoy using.
And they can have it on their mobile. I know you can still have email on your mobile, but it's not in the same way.
Yeah, it's just
whereas with the app,
use.
it's almost comes through like a text message. The chat function on Teams does kind of look like, WhatsApp or whatever else.
And it's a lot like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp Messenger.
Yeah.
And they can, but it's useful. It's not, they don't just see it as a social thing. They see it as a way to help their learning and develop their learning, which is really
They're
good.
much more likely, I think, to use it in that sense because it's so much easier than checking emails.
Yeah.
So I think that instant communication I think is definitely
an
advantage of both.
The fact that you can share files, save files. Yeah, I think that's a massive thing, and you can integrate so much into Teams as well. So you can integrate OneNote into Teams, Whiteboard. There's loads of different apps that you can get them doing a poll. It's just really, really accessible.
I did a poll actually when I first started with OneNote. I wanted to kind of see how the students perceived it because you never know. I thought it was great, but you don't know how the students are going to react. So I gave them some different options. I actually wrote this down in preparation. So the options were, did they love it, think it's okay, not sure yet, not keen, or hate it? And I got 57% that said they loved it, 14% that said it was okay, and 28% that said they were not sure yet. Nobody said they didn't like it, and nobody said they hated it. So I thought that was literally the very first lesson, which I thought was fantastic feedback. And it's been like that across all of my groups, really. In fact, they've even started asking other teachers now, can we use this for your lessons as well? So it's kind of started with me, and it's now actually developed through into other subjects as well.
Yeah, which is a really good way for it to develop, I think.
Yeah, and it's good for staff as well. We can help each other and share each other, being able to have access to each other's OneNote. So it was Kelly that showed me a lot of it initially after I'd done the training. I came to you and was like, right, okay, can you show me a bit more? And I think being able to actually add you in so you can see what my groups are doing and help me if I need that is great. It's a really good function.
I think both things lend themselves really well to staff collaboration and development as well. We've used that a lot. And that we've started with quite a small team, and then we've kind of cascaded the learning, cascaded the training, and done it that way, which has been really good. we've just got one more question. So are the students enjoying using OneNote and Teams? So you've kind of covered OneNote with your poll that you did. I would say generally, they're engaging really well with it. They find it really useful.
I think they like it a lot better than other platforms that we've used previously, like the VLE, Moodle. I think they definitely enjoy Teams better because it's much easier to use. You know, it's kind of much more intuitive.
Much more concise as well. Everything's in one place, so they don't have to download this app for that or that app for that, and it's consistent. We're using it consistently across the college, so everything they do is through Teams. So whether it be an announcement in the student channel, whether it be a live meeting in remote learning, whether it be an assignment, whether it be, you know, asking a question of a teacher, everything now is kind of done through Teams. So they just use it and they enjoy using it because anything they need to do that relates to college, they can do in this one app that works really well and is really easy to use. It's not complicated. You know, they're picking it up really well and they're kind of running with it, I think, as well as staff. Have we got any more?
I've just got another comment. I'll just publish that one. It'll go into the QA. This is actually from another member of staff at the college, just saying that her students are now also using it. Basically, this is Donna, who's also teaching public services. So I showed her and the students are loving it for that as well now. So yeah, I think it's a real positive.
Yeah.
And I guess thinking of the training that we've got coming up, obviously we had to kind of go through things quite quickly tonight to get through enough to give you the confidence to know the basics. But if there are other things that you're keen to learn or want to know more about, then just let us know. You can still post a message in the QA and it's things that we can then put on in future training, or we can even contact you individually. You know, if you need some support, we're more than happy to do that. So yeah, just give us a shout and write comments.
Just another one as well. So I will be doing another session that's looking a little bit more in depth at Teams and OneNote in December. So it's just after the Teach Meet. With the Teach Meet as well, if you are interested, please fill out the form that we've posted. Posted a link. Did we publish the link?
We published the link.
Published the link.
Feedback form, wasn't it?
Yes. So if you just drop your email on there and then you'll get an invite to the Teach Meet. It's going to be a really good event. And just the best thing is that we found as a college is sharing good practice and kind of learning from others about how they're using it and kind of trying things with others. Like
I think giving you the confidence to do it as well. Like if you're somebody that doesn't usually use a lot of technology or maybe struggles with that, sometimes it's super daunting. You know, so just having somebody else there that can show you and say, do you know, it's okay, I felt the same when I first started. I didn't know what I was doing, but look at this is what I can do on this product now or on the software. It gives you the confidence to think, oh, okay, well, maybe I can give this a go then and see where I go with it.
And we're finding it's really useful for BTEC and A level, level 2, level 3, level, you know, A level, everything. You can adapt it and make it personal to how you want to use it in your subjects and for your students. And that's the best thing.
Because
it's very individualized.
You can put like quizzes in it, you can put resources in it. There is so much that you can customize. That's what I like about it.
So yeah, I think that's it. Have we got any more?
No, I don't think we've got any more. So if you've got any more questions, please fire them at us. And then if you can fill in that form, that'll just mean that we can send you.
The key thing about that form is that we need your email address so that we can invite you into the Teach Meet. But if not, tomorrow we've got Sway. So the session on Sway with Lewis and Nick, which is going to be an awesome session. And then we've got some sessions next week on assignments, Wakelet, Flipgrid, and then Teach Meet.
And I think with the assignments one, we've got 2 very different ways of using the assignments, which is, I think, going to be quite cool. I'm looking forward to that one because I think a lot of us are already using it, but for 2 people to be using it in very different ways tells me there's more to it than even I realised. So that might be a really good one if you're using Teams assignments already, just to see how other people might be using it.
But yeah, I think that is everything. So if anyone does have any questions, please pop them in and we will get back to you with some responses to answer those questions. But if not, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We hope to see you at some more over the next coming weeks. Thanks a lot, guys.
Excellent. Bye.